Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of the Seercast. After a couple months of not having much to talk about, we are back with another Runelabs edition.
It is good to be back.
It is good to be back, and it is good to not be as busy as we were last month. This time we are talking about the May Runelab options, the poll, as well as a look back over the previous 5 months of Runelabs, as we are now in the 6th month. So it seems like a good time to look back at what has already happened and just a general like synopsis of how things have gone. I am ePiKnight, and today I am joined with Fangride,
Hi. No fancy intro today. It's a meeting.
Geena,
Well, got punch you into the shadow realm.
Liem,
I'm in the same boat as Fang, just gonna keep it simple. Hi.
Orange,
Well, I'd like to congratulate the monkey who was the first monkey to make it into space.
This monkey was not in fact
Apollo.
Shraki.
The Line Tech
Unfortunately,
Space
no.
the Line Tech Space program is almost at that level.
Except that instead of sending monkeys into space, it sends oranges into space.
Yes.
And it doesn't bring them back.
Rip.
Yes.
Runic,
Autobots transform and roll out.
and we have Thorlah back after an exploding computer, and Walter. Both are in the chat. Thorlah says woo, and Walter says moo. Okay. Anyways,
Good enough.
yeah, sure, we'll go with that. So a quick look at the poll for this month. The May Runelabs was asking for Halloween criteria, or for Halloween updates, and we have 3 options on the poll. We'll go ahead and start with Broken Minds, which is a Broken Home sequel, which you can see right here, and it is made by Fang, so we might as well just let Fang take it away.
Yay. So, Broken Minds, as the title implies, is a sequel to Broken Home, but in a mini-quest form. It would involve you heading down into the asylum beneath the Golbus Mansion and discovering what was going on with Nabor the Majora. You'd earn some fancy rewards like a mini Nabor pet, some buffs to the ring, small buffs, but buffs nevertheless, some experience, and some lore. And, yeah, that's about it.
Yay.
Keep it nice and short, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's an interesting. There's been. Did Mod Ollie endorse this idea?
Jack endorsed it.
Yeah, it was Jack and Al.
I can't remember who endorsed it in the video. But somebody endorsed it in the
I
video.
think it was Ollie. I think Ollie endorsed it in the video, but I could be wrong.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
these-
Somebody I
these
didn't
were
recognize.
The two guys who like pioneered work on Broken Home. So this is like
Yeah, Ollie started retweeting it.
Oh, it was Ollie retweeted it. I don't remember then. Yeah, somebody endorsed it in the video. It was. I was like, oh, yeah, that's nice. Unfortunately, in the poll, it is not doing so well, as you can see here.
No, unfortunately. But
Unfortunately.
then again, that's because a lot of people hated Broken Home, the quest, and thought that the mechanics for this would be the same thing.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately is not the case. It would be in the asylum portion, which had absolutely no spooky ghosts and keyholes.
No. Yeah. Oh, that quest.
But
And no possessed chairs.
no,
Oh dear.
Possessed chains on the other hand.
Torture rooms like Mod Animated.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
And yeah, so that's a quick synopsis of that one. Next up, we have Spectres of War, which is a suggestion by Hellring, and it's basically talking about the World Event 2, the aftermath of World Event 2, where Bandos died. You also have many of the other races that were involved that would have presumably died. Aviances, ogres, orcs, goblins, and humans. So the idea is that you collect these souls. You can either defeat them in battle, use divination to claim them, and then you can convert them basically into XP with, or other rewards such as outfits or lore and stuff from death. So that's a quick overview of Spectres of War. It's a cool idea, tying back in the World Event 2 stuff. But yeah, it seems
I feel like it's a bit late for this World
Yeah.
Event 2 aftermath stuff.
especially
but
considering the Tuska event starts tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So, well, I mean, it's good that we're getting some after effects from World Event 2 still.
Yeah, it seems a little bit late, but it's a cool idea nonetheless, and maybe there can be something similar to the Tuska event when the community inevitably fails at banding together and Tuska crashes
Okay,
headfirst into Catherby.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's
Got it.
yeah, that covers Spectres of War. Next, and then the third option, which is currently winning by how much?
It's by a
About
fair amount, I think.
14 percentage points or 7,000 votes, so it's pretty clear that this one's going to end up winning. We have the Itchy versus Amaskut mini world event, and I think Lime would like to speak about this one, so take it away.
Yeah, it's much in the same way, the same vein as the Marimbo versus Brassica World seasonal event, and it also feels like that whole soul the soul event between Amaskut and Nick Barn a while back, with the masks and stuff.
Yeah.
But it says that due to the increased amount of spiritual activity around Halloween, both Ekbarn and Amaskut have decided to redouble their efforts. And they want, the players to go in and try and, protect the cycle of life, the whole life cycle. Well, the afterlife cycle, sorry. I of course am going to join Ekbarn when and if this event wins. I'm pretty sure that
Lime's
Amaskut's
a
going to
traitor.
Amaskut's going to join Amaskut because he is a scrub.
Because I know the way. I am one true.
But
One
of
true
course,
evil.
I think we all know that the true winner of this will be Zimmerfizz.
Of
who is
course.
going to-
Yeah. Zimmerfizz will
will
start selling the soul
profiteer-
things.
He's going to profiteer over the whole thing, and that is just perfect.
I'll bring Fimbrers's with me and get a discount.
Get him.
And the best part about this whole thing is that it's going to remain after the event is over. So, also it's going to hype up some desert stuff, and we need desert
Yeah.
stuff. Because the last
Yep.
new desert quest came out
2010?
700 days ago?
11?
The last new real desert content that came out was
No. The last
quite
real
a
desert
while ago.
content came out 1,000 days ago. I think.
Yeah, I thought that was a number of years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
Diamond in the Rough and Stolen Hearts came out on 26th
like-
of September in 2012.
yeah, it's like mid-late
That's the last
2012.
desert content we've had.
So yeah, it'd be 900 days. So we need some more desert stuff, and this will be good for building the hype
Yeah.
train.
This is hyping it up, and then I know I'm submitting a desert quest for July's Runelabs. So hopefully that'll carry some hype into that.
Yeah, July's Runelabs is the medium quest month, I think.
Yes.
So get your Elemental Workshop 5 suggestions ready, because
Oh yeah.
I will vote for all of them that
every
don't
single
suck.
one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that covers this one. It looks like the Eclairon versus Amaskut mini world event is going to win. So it's almost you can just
And I'm
kind of
totally okay with that.
pencil this in. Yeah, it's a shame that Fang's suggestion has almost less votes than I don't mind. But we'll talk about that I don't mind option a bit later. I'm pretty sure more than one of us has a bone to pick with that.
As long as I beat I don't mind, I'm okay.
Okay, there you go. But yeah, the Eclairon versus the Amaskut World event. It is a cool idea. I think I voted for it myself. Don't let the highlight on there on the video deceive you. That's not actually what I voted for. Notice it says change vote. But yeah, so it's a cool idea, and I'm looking forward to it. It's something that's a little bit different than what a traditional Halloween event would be, and I kind of like that about it. I'm not a big Halloween fan myself, so
All right.
Yeah, so I think that covers what we wanted to do for the last month. So we'll go ahead and take a quick look back at previous
Ooh,
months. Huh?
before we move on, one other thing I wanted to mention. I saw a lot of people in the forums giving Cindercoil a bit of crap for saying like people were saying his idea breaks lore and shouldn't be made for that reason. But he's not lore ignorant in the slightest.
Yeah.
And even the poll, it mentions it's not going to be a Masket and Niclarin sitting there duking it out. It's very
With
much
a laser
focused on the
beam in
souls.
between them.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much focused on the souls aspect of things, less than the two gods, showing up and having a giant fist fight or
And they're
cat
not going
fight
to
or whatever.
They're not going to sit on chairs at
Magic
opposite
laser
ends of the
fight.
battlefield
Exactly.
either.
So it's a lot more interesting than that. So I just want to make sure that he gets the credit he deserves, because it's not lore breaking as much as people are willing to say that it is. So you know what? As much as I want people to vote for Broken Minds, it's so far behind. Vote for Masket versus Zaglar, and if you have nothing else to choose from, stop voting for I Don't Mind. That's a waste.
And we're going to talk more about that in a bit because
Exactly.
Yeah. Walter, it's probably good that Walter doesn't have his own mic because he's yelling at us in chat, but it's okay. He doesn't have a mic, so we can ignore him, right, Walter? Sure. See?
Yep.
Anyways, but yeah, so we'll take, at this point, it's a good idea to take a quick look back at previous months. I don't think in the previous episodes we've even mentioned what has ended up winning the previous month's polls, but I have the pictures of the previous month, so I might as well pull them up here. If you go back to January's top ideas, we had the choices were between the farming timer, Slayer belt, Addie and Rune Dragons, the Trim Twist cape, and editing GE offers. The big winners from this is probably the Addie and Rune Dragons, which are coming to game this month. Mod Stu is working on them, and they look absolutely amazing.
they look fantastic. It sounds like we're going to get a ton of Dragonkin lore with it too, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, the locations are hype. Even some Stone of Jas lore. So the two locations that these dragons will be in is below the Brimhaven dungeon in that weird staircase.
As expected.
For the Adamant dragons. But the Rune dragons are a little bit more interesting. They'll be located on Mount Firewake on Catsea.
That
Oh,
was
what?
badass.
And you can only get there having completed Ritual, the Majorat, and Fate of the Gods.
Use the World Gate.
Via the World Gate, yeah.
Yeah.
So, very high-level requirements, lots of quests. They're going to be very, very strong, even require Dragonbane bolts at one point. And just to make it a
What does
little
at
more
one point
tantalizing,
mean?
one of their big drops is going to be an item that will upgrade the Glacor boots to tier 90 power boots.
Yeah. So, as this was revealed in the stream 2 weeks ago, I want to say, and instantly Glacor boots jumped like 5 mil in price. Yay, market manipulation.
I wish
Oh,
I'd
sorry,
owned
they
it.
doubled in price. Well, that means that's like increased by 5 mil for a couple of them.
Yeah, they were somewhere in that.
And then 4x'd.
And then they quadrupled.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, so Addie and Rune Dragons look awesome. Have they mentioned anything about the specifics of fighting them, or have they just said basically it's going to be a
There's-
lot more difficult?
There's several phases for the Rune Dragons. They're very difficult, and Dragonbane bolts will be required for one of the phases.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's about all we know.
I'm super interested in like the lore as to why the Rune Dragons are at Catsea. Like, have the dragons set up shop over there?
That would be, yeah.
Will we find a Dragonkin over there?
It's where Karapak's lab actually is.
I'm most excited for it, honestly, because of the Stone of Jas implications, because we don't know a lot of the information about how the Stone of Jas got to Catsea and how it got back. I've been doing a research thread on it myself recently with Krondus,
And I've been
and Liem has been helping, as is Fuswell. And it's been a little bit troublesome with the Catsea segments, so I'm really hoping that Rune Dragons sheds a little bit of light on that.
Yeah. Also making it through that update was the farming timer and the Slayer belt. You had the Slayer belt is pretty much exactly what you would imagine, and the farming.
Somehow it appears they fit 12 items onto the belt.
Very nice. Well, there's a lot of those kind of random, obscure, low-level things
That's
that
true.
that don't fit into the Slayer helm, because there's several that obviously are part of the Slayer helm itself. But then you have like the insulated boots and stuff, and like witchwood icons and stuff like that. They're just kind of random, and you don't ever think about them for high-level Slayer, but they're still required for the mid-low level Slayer tasks. So,
Yep.
But yeah, so there's Slayer belt and then the farming timer. Both of those are coming in game soon.
Yeah,
So-
I'm gonna assume that they're gonna come this month as well, because they've been teasing them recently, and all of the January updates were supposed to come within, or all of the January Runelabs were supposed to come within the same month.
Yeah. So hopefully those will come this month, and that'll be a cool month to go along with our major Tuska stuff. That is beginning tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
It's
just
confirmed for
get, like-
tomorrow, correct?
June 1st, it launches tomorrow.
Cool.
It shows like one of the really good parts about Runelabs, where you get a lot of really good content.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
this is all great content that needs to be in the game.
Yep. All right.
So it's like the player's way of reminding JMods, hey, we need this, we need that, while JMods can go off and do like the really big stuff.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, all right. So that covers what happened in January. Moving on to February, we have that there were only two options on this poll. It was Flood the Lumbridge Crater and Lodestone modifications. If I recall correctly, this vote was extremely close,
Within 1,000 votes.
Yeah, it
and
was very close.
ended up in favor of Lodestone modifications. However, in the recent summer, what do they call it? The summer.
The Summer Spectacular,
Yeah.
it's always going to be a version of Summer Spectacular, Summer Extravaganza.
Yeah, whatever the post was that they made about it, they mentioned that they're going to do some kind of beach thing in the Lumbridge Crater. So they're effectively doing the Flood Lumbridge Crater suggestion anyway, which is
But turning it into a beach.
kind of cool in its own right. And it's like
Well, I mean,
it's an
they did it
interesting.
before.
Yeah, I know they've done it. But it's interesting that Lumbridge Crater has just kind of become the event hub, even without having its own content most of the year. It's just like a convenient place to put events. It's in the free-to-play area. It's a large space. Even the fact that it's circular means that there's a lot of stuff. You can section it off in various different ways, and
And
have
It's also very large and open.
yeah, and you can't miss it. It's large. Yeah, it's open.
It's next to Lumbridge, which is like the most well-known town ever.
Yeah. So it's like even though it didn't win, even though Flood Lumbridge Crater didn't win this poll, it's ended up being perfect. Have we heard anything about lodestone modifications since
Yep.
it happened?
So you charge up the lodestones with Viswax, and then you teleport.
oh, with
faster.
V-Swax.
Yeah, they're
It's a
using
terrible.
V-Swax for
I'm
this.
honestly not happy about that. I think it's a terrible choice because Viswax is already expensive as is and limited as is. So it basically guarantees that nobody will use it for the lodestones.
Well, yeah, you never know.
Or
It's
Rune
an
will go
interesting
off the same.
choice.
It was a very interesting choice because they talked about using either divination energy or a new resource, and I really hoped they would use divination energy because I thought that would be a really solid way to go about it. It'd
Yeah.
help even improve the price of divination.
You could have done some kind of combination of divination energy and V-Swax and runes
Yeah.
or
Well,
some
see,
kind
the
of
way they were
combination.
talking about it was each one would now have a quest requirement, and then they would have a
And that
divination
would have
level
been
requirement
great.
to fast teleport to.
That would have been
And I
wonderful
was,
because
yeah,
that'd
that
be
would have been
just
fantastic.
It would have been just like it should have been like the quest that you would get the original teleport that you'd use runes for.
Exactly.
It
The
should have been
Yaniel
that
teleport
for
comes
the
from Watchtower quest.
Yeah.
Ardun comes from one of the Ardun
Biohazard.
quests. Biohazard. But it's a
the-
little disappointing that they decided to just go with basic, charge it with Viswax and teleport to, instead of going a little more in depth with it and actually balancing out lodestones in an appropriate way.
Yeah.
So that's probably my that's probably the thing that I'm least happy about.
Yeah, it's.
Well, I mean, you win some, you lose some.
Mhm.
Yep. Hey, and at least we're getting some sort of Lumbee Crater update. So
Yeah,
good stuff.
and I mean we get that with every event anyway, so it's like, I mean, those two. This was, I think, when we look back at our own podcast, this was definitely the one that we were the least excited about anyway. I mean, there's only two of them to begin with. I think it was up against wasn't Elemental Workshop in this one? One of the competitions.
No, one of the next highest was Imp Catcher rework from Zoliben, and a couple of others. I don't remember it very well, just because pretty much anything Lori didn't really go anywhere.
Rite of Passage would always be up there.
Yeah, well.
Now this was a small month.
Yeah, but it
Rob
would go
got
up
closed within like 10 minutes.
Then everything else.
This also had some of the. This also had the writing history honorable mention that we've that we talked about. Those kind of interesting. But yes, that is that. The next month, obviously March, we have. This was the poll between the Saren quest, the Rite of Passage, or the Armadillo Homeworld quest, Farming Guild, and New Ways to Train Agility. It was another very close poll in the end.
Saren Quest won by 700 votes.
Yeah, with Saren Quest barely squeaking past new agility or New Ways to Train Agility.
In fact, the only reason Saren Quest won was because of a large campaign that happened on Twitter and Reddit with mere hours to go.
Yeah, because the Armaderps were like,
crazy.
wait a second, we can't be butthurt here, not yet. We have to get a quest through.
And of course, the worst part about this was, a couple of weeks beforehand, people that were supporting the Saren Quest and the Armadillians were being very nasty to each other. So it was good to see everybody kind of group up at the end and be like, all right, screw agility, let's get a quest.
Yeah.
It was still very inspiring to see the lore community band together like that. But it also showed us the first time that campaigning became a really big thing.
Yeah.
And I think the only time too.
Oh, this one was. This was so close and so closely contested. It wasn't just like there's two options and they were pretty close at the end. This was like it kind of went back and forth, and there was.
Yeah. The night before, the two of them were literally just slipping back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched Agility take the lead, and then Saren Quest take the lead again, and it went on like this for an hour before Agility finally was up by like 200 votes, and then I went to bed. And I woke up the next morning to find a top post on Reddit saying, hey, if you're voting for Rite of Passage, swap it off Rite of Passage and put it on Saren to make sure that a quest wins rather than Agility changes.
Yes.
And it worked, and I logged in to see Saren Quest steadily gaining.
Yeah, we had issues. The Seercast had issues about what was in the agility post.
It was like tacking a few more higher end agility stuff on top again instead of actually dealing with the problems with agility.
Yeah, it wasn't actually new ways to train agility. It was the same ways in different places. And it was. I think we'll talk about this a little bit later, but the poll was misleading.
Disappointing.
I didn't say disappointing. It was misleading because of the way that it was worded.
Yeah, which has been a problem with a couple of the Runelabs in the past.
Yeah,
in that
we'll chat
a couple of
that
options. Their descriptions have either been deeply misleading to their detriment or deeply misleading to their gain.
Yeah. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. We know that the Saren and the Elves quest is coming, though. There's been quite a bit of chatter about that, especially about the spell book itself. For lack of a better term, I guess it's been an open book to us, and they've been
very open about it.
Yeah, they've sent it to they've put it on Twitter, they've put it on the forums, just like kind of poking ideas back and forth at us at us as the community about.
Ollie and Raven have been actively, updating us on it.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
And we'll talk more about exactly what is in the spellbook and exactly what the quest entails when it hits the BTS, I believe in early August. You said
Yep,
it was going to be in August?
From the way my quest on the making schedule is looking, and knowing what quests are coming after it, August appears to be the month that the Saren quest will be.
Yeah, so we've got none this month. We have the 201 next month, which is the V quest.
Next month or July. We're not certain on that.
And we'll talk about that.
Next month is July.
We will talk about
yeah.
that, all that summer spectacular stuff.
Yeah, by the time this comes out, it'll be June. So.
Yeah, but we've got a BTS podcast coming next week, and we'll talk about all of that stuff, as well as the beginning of the Tuska event, so that'll be next week.
Because hype is a non-renewable resource.
Yes,
and you must
hype.
hype trains run.
But yeah, so that is the March poll. We're looking forward to this stuff. We like how this one turned out. And then the final poll that we from last month from April was the vote between Elf City waterfall fishing, the constructible museum room in your player-owned house, and the roaming Slayer Master D&D that was Fang's idea. This one
this one was a problem.
This one
One did not go well for us.
So this was the first Runelabs that occurred after the forum update.
Which forum update was this for?
The complete overhaul of the forums. The changes that they did recently, adding signatures,
Yeah, the
changing
big-
layout.
Oh yeah, that's
And
stuff.
what it did was it broke the prior format that they had for all of the Runelabs that they would post on the forums. But apparently, I don't know if it was rushed or if there was a problem, but the Runelabs post didn't even link to the original ideas, was very brief with their descriptions, like 10 words, and cut a lot of people's contents out, even though it was, a medium-sized month. So there was some dissatisfaction, especially from myself, about the way descriptions played a large part in how the vote came out.
It cut a large amount of the roaming Slayer Master, of course, which was a horrible thing to do. And then, of course, POH had so much extra stuff along with it.
That wasn't the original idea.
Yeah, the original idea was very long. It had a bunch of stuff that was attached with it, like the treatises that you would get with the POH museum room, as well as like the stuff that you build in the museum room. It would give like a purpose in your house. And while Elf City waterfall fishing, that's pretty much what it is on the tin. So it gave Elf City waterfall fishing a large advantage.
Huge advantage.
And of course,
Slayer Master only lost by 2.5k votes, so I kind of just have to wonder, what would have happened if the description had been accurate to the idea.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it comes down to the fact that, well, the player base doesn't want to read, doesn't want to go and do research. And we all fall into this category. It's like, okay, it's a poll. What looks the best with the basic descriptions? And if it's not three things that we're like intimately care about, we'll just take those descriptions at face value and be like, this one looks better. Click. And unfortunately, in this case, that was not actually.
Yeah. And of course, a lot of us were also surprised about the fact that another Elf City thing was even allowed on the poll in the first place, and then won.
Because Elf City is becoming.
This will be the sixth Elf update in a year.
We've complained about this ad nauseum, but basically,
we have.
There's elf overload.
Very much so.
There's no reason to leave the Elf City.
And then, of course, just making it almost a little bit funnier was the fact that we had just gotten a POH and a fishing update.
Yeah.
And then on the poll was a POH update, a fishing update, and then something else. So that was very funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, it ended up they already had banned one of the Elf City ones. It was the Elven Woods, wasn't it?
They didn't remove that at all. Actually, they kept it on there. It just didn't get enough.
It just lost all of its support because of the guy that posted it on Reddit. All right.
Yeah, it was actually not the author that posted it on Reddit either. It was a somebody that was working with them to create like a concept art of what the area looked like,
Yeah.
and they
boy,
went a
did
little
he mess up.
overboard with it. They went
Yeah.
way overboard with it.
Yeah. We talked about that.
And they scaled it down to a reasonable size, but by that point, people were like kind of annoyed with them.
Yeah.
The damage had been done.
Yeah.
And
But-
and then, of course, we ended up with Elf City Waterfall Fishing winning that poll.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have it up on the
2,500 votes.
Yeah, it looks like I have it. I have the screenshot I have up is with 3 days and 9 hours left. I assumed that it was, it was leading by about 2,500 votes at that point. I guess it just kind of stayed the
It
same.
stayed about even. It really did.
Yeah, no major changes. But yeah, so that's coming, and that's going to be what, October-ish, September, something like that.
September. It's coming in September.
Yeah, so that's just something.
This month's is for October. Next month's is for. Well, this month's is for November, and the following month is for December.
Well, sometimes depending on how large the update is, it'll come out sooner rather than later. But yes.
From my understanding, it's less about a time thing. So each month's Runelabs is for a specific month in the future that goes in order.
Okay, fair
and then,
enough.
Yeah,
but
it's
the
about
size
6
is
months.
based on how much resources the team has available.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
about 6 months, and it goes back to that the discussion of whether updates should be scaled down or left the same size.
Yeah. All right, so that one's that. Before we move on into kind of more general Rune Labs, excuse me, more general Rune Labs stuff. What is the exact criteria for this month ahead?
It is
So
to,
this current month is
it's to design a
monster.
mob, right?
But
Yeah, design
there's
a
a couple catches to that. So I'll just read it off. During June, we are looking for ideas for new high-level monsters. We're looking for new, unique, and exciting beasts, humanoids, amorphous terrors, or anything else you can see. We're not looking for that monster, but bigger. Your pitch should be about the look, feel, and behavior of your imagined mob. Where does it
So
live?
basically-
How does it
Basically,
live?
don't.
What does it by itself?
It's basically saying
Yeah.
don't campaign around the rewards.
Yeah, that's actually very specifically. It says we're not looking for specific rewards ideas.
We'll
Only
do that.
the beasts lurking in your imagination. So basically, don't do rewards.
So
And of course, hilariously, the top idea has rewards on it.
Well, I do.
Now,
I think I
be
said.
fair-
I think I read somewhere that they're like, don't do rewards. We'll do the balancing. We'll do that stuff
Yeah.
for you. But
They're
yeah.
very much looking for specific mob ideas. But it did make me laugh because the top idea currently has rewards on it. And while Mod Liem replied to it saying, we're going to, the reward information will be removed from it if it makes it to pull, it doesn't change the fact that it's a little awkward that the top idea has rewards on it and
Yeah.
that hasn't been removed from the idea itself by a Jmod.
Mhm.
So that's a little annoying / disappointing because I feel like that is giving the idea a bit of an unfair advantage.
Walter says it's important to note that it's a combat mob, not a boss. So
Correct.
I guess that's what you mean by
It reminds
not
me
X, just bigger.
Yeah,
Oh, is that
Runic said
Runic?
that.
Oh, that's Rune.
Runic said that. Not
I
Walter.
just assume in the chat. I just see chat spam, and I assume it's Walter. Sorry, Runic.
It actually reminds me of that. What was it? The survey for mobs during
Yeah.
the birthright of the dwarves. The one where I submitted my Chaos Auto Dragon, and I did not submit my Chaos Auto Dragon for this poll, but I wish I did.
You should.
But
You should
I
have.
should have, but it's a bit late for that now, and that's going to tie into one of my few complaints about Runelabs later. That it's really reliant on what time you posted.
Yeah, but all right. Then I guess.
Oh,
What?
To add on further, this one's a little. It's a medium-sized month, but this month they're going to be pulling 6 to 8 of the ideas,
Ooh.
and 3 to 4 of them will be making it in game.
Oh,
And
interesting.
you'll actually get 3 to 4 votes, similar to the, the one where they were asking for elite monsters, the
Yeah.
elite version of monsters. You'll be getting multiple votes just like that.
Interesting. All right.
So of course Lord Decarius is going to win.
Oh my
But
god.
so yeah, we'll be seeing a couple of these, which is pretty exciting.
Cool. All right. Well, then we'll move forward. So we've taken a peek at what has happened. What have been the outcomes of the
It's been 6
polls?
months.
But yeah.
6 months since it came out.
So now it's been 6 months since Runelabs came out. It's been 8 months since it was announced.
Yep.
What?
We'll be getting the first updates from it next month.
Yeah. Are there any community surprises that any of you have seen from in terms of like the results or the?
Well, for one, I'm really surprised at how much lore-related stuff is going into the game through Runelabs, and I'm really happy about that, since like almost every item that goes out now, it will have a lore-related implication, with the exception of lodestone modifications and Elf City waterfall fishing. But everything
And
else,
Slayer
it has
Belt
like
farming timer.
well,
Slayer Belt and Farming Timer hardly count.
yeah,
the
because-
main thing from that poll was definitely Addie and Rune Dragons.
Absolutely.
And you could probably make an argument that Addie and Rune Dragons was more than a medium update. Like,
yeah,
you could
Yeah.
probably make that argument.
I mean, they actually took all three of them because they're like, oh, we can just split these into smalls. But no, they barely used any budget on the farming timers and the Slayer Belt because they're tiny.
Yeah, they really are. And that was one of our complaints about them in the original thing. It's like, these aren't medium updates. What are they doing on the things? And then and then I guess what it seems like is that Jagex was like, no, they're not medium. They're not even close. So
they did that anyway. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, since then, they also have learned from that mistake because there was a lot of backlash of, look, you asked for a medium update and all these shitty small and tiny updates are making it to pull. Stop wasting our time.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've very clearly been saying, this is a large only month or a medium or a small only month. Do not submit other ideas.
And they've been policing it. So we have, like, if you notice in our first Runelabs cast, we had a couple in the fail section of it that were just blatantly super grandmaster quests, or like, you don't belong in a medium update. What are you doing here? And they've been pretty good about policing those.
Yeah,
the ones that have started to gain traction, if they're not the correct size, the JMod just
or
says
if they're off
no.
criteria. For example, right now there's 3 that are up near the top: hard mode, God Wars Dungeon drop improvements, the barrel shield passive effects, and skill titles.
Those definitely do not
and
belong this month.
The only reason that they're that high up right now is because it's a weekend.
Yeah.
Like, Monday will come around and they'll...
And Kelpie will just say, ha 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 ha, no.
Yeah, Kelpie's doing a really good
So,
job.
It's a little bit interesting because it seems like a lot of the community doesn't understand Runelabs and what it actually is. Because every cycle, when I see ideas that aren't for part of the criteria rising, I'll mention them over on the discussion thread saying, hey, these are some ideas that are going up a little high. You guys might want to take a minute to get rid of those ones. And the author of one of them actually replied to me, almost accusing me of targeting them or something like that. It was really strange.
I mean, if you make a post that's like, hold on a second, this isn't...
Yeah.
I mean, I can see why they would take it
completely
personally.
Innocent. Like, here, let me find mine. I literally just linked to the 2 ideas, which at the time were skill titles and the Barrow Shield passive effects. I said, these 2 might need to be closed for the month as they're gaining traction but aren't monsters! ! Link to the 2 of them. And he replies and is basically like, I'm upset you've gone out of your way to ask for our ideas to be closed. When Runelabs was introduced, it was done so players could feel their opinions make a difference, and goes on. And
I can understand why he would be angry if he doesn't realize what the criteria are, or misunderstands the criteria or something like that. Like, if there's one thing we've definitely learned from the community from Runelabs is that they're not the smartest bunch. But I think that almost every member of the community would agree, even if they're one of the not smarter bunches. And I'm sure that you could make an argument that, oh yeah, I'm a total moron. What am I doing hosting this podcast? Like, and that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion, however wrong it may be. I mean, what? No.
The thing is, though, it seems like a lot of the games community doesn't quite agree with what Runelabs is. Because one thing that they said is, Runelabs shouldn't be seen as a competition. It should be used by players who care to help improve the game, not to try to win something. That's not really the case at all. Runelabs is a competition. It's intended to be a competition.
Yeah. Walter says, what do you mean Memphis isn't a mob?
Thank you. But so it's very interesting to see how people that don't participate in Runelabs every month see it as more of a place just to post their ideas. But it's not a replacement for the suggestion forum, not at all.
Mm-mm.
The suggestion forum still exists, and I even said this to him. Like, look, why don't you post it on the suggestion forum? You did that. That's good. That's what you're supposed to do, because that's what the suggestion forum is for. But then you went and completely ignored the criteria for the month, posted it to Runelabs, and then get offended when somebody says, hey, this isn't part of the criteria this month. This should probably be marked unsuitable for current competition this month.
Yeah, I think it's a question of perception versus reality, really. Is that, like, the perception is that it's the suggestion forum. Like, it's just a remade suggestion forum, but in reality, it really is a competition. And as we've talked about, like, there's kind of a method to the madness of getting your idea through. Like, I think we talked about it at length maybe 2 months ago, where it's just like...
right when, during March, when the Saren Quest and Rite of Passage and all of those started going up there, and we noticed that Rite of Passage, without any incentive to vote for it, did not do as well as Saren Quest, which had blatant...
well, and there's we'll talk about the descriptions and stuff a little bit later, and there's some issues with that as well. But like in general, like it's a competition, and you're trying, and there's like a specific way that you can kind of go about doing it, and you saw this with the Elven Woods update when there was like they were chugging along, they were like number 1, weren't they? They were number 2 or something.
Yeah.
And then they posted it on Reddit, and it fell apart, and it just like the bottom fell out. Everybody
blown up.
Yeah, and but there's this. They're just, and then it's no secret, or there's no. It's not a fluke that Fang has made it on, what, 3 in a row? 2 in a row?
Two in a row right now.
And
if they are accepting 8, I'm on track to be 3 in a row.
Yeah. And there's no secret to that. And it's amazing. Like, April was his first month. This was the month after we talked about, like, this is how you do it, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
which, of course, is even funnier because for April, I had the Slayer Master, and I did focus on rewards a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then for Broken Minds, I did focus on rewards a little bit. And of course, this month they don't want you to, but still.
Yeah. But it's a question about, it's like
not a fluke.
It's like a political campaign almost at a certain point. It's like you have to campaign for yourself, and if you don't, then you're never going to get any votes. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you can get a random click here or there, but you're never going to like get a wave of votes.
Yeah.
I don't
For
really
instance,
see that
I
as
use
a good
Twitter
thing.
for that. I use Reddit for that, and I even have my player examine in game set to say, "Hey, support this idea on Runelabs," and I say what the idea number is.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of it, but there's a lot of campaigning that has to happen.
Yeah.
You know, if you really want to see your idea up there, but you don't have,
Put out
maybe
the
you have
effort.
something that's a little obscure, campaign.
Yep, put out the
it'll
effort.
do you a lot of good.
Mm-hmm.
And
the-
Reddit isn't the biggest fan of Runelabs usually, but if you take the time to write up a good suggestion for it, and it's something that is still interesting, people will respond.
Reddit doesn't generally like much of anything, though, so...
That's very true.
I mean, let's be honest.
The Seercast does not do well on Reddit, I believe.
We do all right. It's not... We don't do terribly.
Yeah, our best was probably our JMod interview.
Well, I mean, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
I mean, those... Because it's just like, when it's just us talking, it's not like... But when we have the JMod on, it's like a direct connection. And, it's... like, I think we enjoy those more than the normal ones anyway. So it's like, well, why wouldn't everybody else? Not to say that we don't like these. We wouldn't do it if we didn't. But, it's just the it's to be expected. Like, okay, the developers are on. Why wouldn't you like it unless we're just asking terrible questions? Which is a possibility. And if we're doing that, let us know. Please give us feedback. That's why we have Twitter. That's why we have the Reddit threads. That's why we have that stuff. Anyways, we're off topic.
Back on topic. I don't really think that this whole campaigning thing is a good thing for Runelabs, though, because
it's from the pitch of Runelabs. It was that an idea could make it in game, and that was the whole point behind it. That some new content would come in game, and a player would pitch it. Now it just seems like players are trying to win for the sake of winning and saying, "Hey, I got content in game."
Yeah.
And that's not.
It's almost a little disappointing sometimes seeing, the person, a winner afterwards is kind of just like, yeah, my idea made it in game. And it's less about, I want a new piece of content that will be healthy for the game, and more about the pleasure of having your idea in game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not supporting that my thought process, but you obviously understand it. It's
of course, it's awesome.
Like, it isn't like they're doing what I wanted them to do. It's like, yes. And they're doing, it's not just that they're doing what I wanted them to do. I made the idea. It is my idea. Whether you're the first to think of it or not, who cares? It's you were the one that made the post, you're the one, like...
And that's good, but
yeah.
I just don't like the current culture of people go to the front page and then upvote whatever they like on the topmost.
Yeah, that's probably one of the bigger problems I'm seeing is, what gets popular on the first day is probably what's going to remain generally popular over the next month, and then every once in a while something else will pop up because it got a lot of support on Twitter or Reddit.
Yeah.
So
that's about it.
I did have an idea the other day about how we could fix this, and it was that you don't, during the process when it's in the Runelabs section, you don't ever get to see how many people support it. What you just get is a randomized list of everything that's up there, and you still get like an item code of which Runelabs number links to which Runelabs idea, but nobody gets to see how much support it gets. It just shows up as jagex of which is the top.
Yeah,
so
that could be one way to deal with it.
So people still get the pride of saying my idea got into game, but you can't really go up there. You can't just let the ideas that go up there on the first day win.
On the other hand, though, the biggest problem with that is, it becomes a lot harder to, see what is good, because it's really hard to find good ideas in Runelabs.
Yeah. Because as we've made in the first couple months, like, there's a lot of trash.
And a lot of the stuff that, is good enough to make the first page is going to be a vast majority of the stuff that is good. Now, yes, there are some ideas that are very good that don't get support, which is very upsetting, because there's some great stuff out there that I've personally supported this month that only has a couple of votes on.
Mm-hmm.
But
and there's a lot of that.
Change the fact that for the most part, the good stuff is on the front page, and a lot of the reason that people don't, bother to go back and read through the old pages is there's a lot of crap, a lot of it, and so not giving people the ability at all to see
Walter always
what
us.
Other people are supporting.
He prefers
means
the
that
bad ideas.
Even fewer, I personally think that even fewer people will bother to use Runelabs if instead of being able to quickly see what's really good and what's not, is they have to actually comb through 50 pages to find anything decent.
All right, then what about this? It creates a randomized list of things that have 10 supporters or more.
Guys, I just got my Traherne symbol piece. Sorry, I'm freaking out. I've been trying to get this for 2 million thieving XP.
Yay.
Wow. I'm done with the list. Okay.
But
back to Runelabs.
So, but yeah, what were you saying, Lime?
What if the front page of Runelabs, you could get the best... It would be ideas that got 10 supporters or more. And then, 25% of it is ideas that don't have any supporters. So most of it.
But then what's the point if the 10 supporters or more?
It's so that the crap does not clog up your front page.
I don't see why, if you have a 10 supporters or more, you'd still have 25% of... If it's 10 supporters or more, it's 10 supporters or more. It's not that difficult to get 10 supporters.
It's pretty difficult for craft to get that high support.
Well, yeah, I mean... It's hard for crap to get that high, but for somebody who's making a concerted effort, really all you have to do to get 10 supporters is go to Twitter, hit please support my idea, and tweet, and tag a few people, and tell them to retweet.
But that's the thing. It's so that the good ideas that will get like 10 supporters or more, of course, will show up on almost every. It will randomly show up on front pages. So that 75% of it will be good ideas rather than 90% of it being crap.
That could be an interesting way to do it, because right now the only thing that you can really do is just kind of vaguely view the, it'll just display some random ones on the front. But nobody pays attention to those.
So you'd have like a weighted random. Kinda.
Yeah.
In any event, the thing should be that the ideas that are posted after like the first couple hours and the ideas that haven't gotten a lot of votes but are still good should have a fair chance.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
Day.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Where the ideas that were suggested after really don't have much of a chance at this point. But at the same time,
that's one of the biggest issues with Runelabs, in my opinion. The other one is that it's not really connected to the rest of the game. So, like, the Runelabs community is very separated from the rest of the RuneScape community.
Why don't they have? So they have forum links in. Well, they have links. I don't remember in what part of the interface they have it where you can actually click on something and go to the forums.
It's at the bottom.
Why don't they have that for each? I don't.
It's just that you don't get to see the ideas in the general game, and that's the issue.
I don't know. Maybe
that you don't get full populace, and then ideas that were on top, like
that was a big part of.
They flop and when they get to the actual player base.
That's the other really big thing that's a little disappointing is what is supported on Runelabs doesn't always do well in game.
Yeah, and you saw that number one with the Rite of Passage, because Rite of Passage had 1,300 supports and was in
top.
front by a mile. It was like 500 ahead of the next one, and then it got to game and it was dead last in the poll, not even close to competitive.
It was really sad.
I ended up with 10% or something.
With for example, the first poll I was on, we got more votes than we got Runelabs supports in 3 hours.
So it just shows you that
it ran for a whole month.
It shows you that the Runelabs community is not the same as the RuneScape community, and that divide needs to go away. There needs to be a way for the RuneScape community. But at the same
time, you're going to have I forget sounding callous. You're going to have the plebs, and then you're going to have the kind of educated, those who really pay attention. And that's just how it is in every game. You have whether it be newer players or players that just don't care, or players that log in once a week and say, "Oh, hey, here's a poll. So I'll click one of these. This one looks cool. Click." And you're gonna have a huge part of the player base that just does that. And I don't think it's in an ideal world. Yeah, that's fixable. But that's just not feasible. It's just a question of.
But from my view, it's not that everyone in RuneScape does not care about what gets through the Runelabs polls. That's the community who always goes, "I don't mind," and that is what I'm really. Everyone's really up in arms about that because it's a waste of a vote. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's what I'm very disappointed about with this month. Is, there's so many I don't minds because people don't care about Halloween.
The sheer amount of apathy.
Yeah.
But,
I think it's also. And this ties into what Fang was talking about earlier with descriptions. When Jagex goes and either alters the description favorably or unfavorably, whether they mean to or not, and it either positively or negatively affects the vote, again, whether they mean to or not, like I'm not going to go and say, oh, Jagex is playing favorites. They're trying to get certain things in game. Obviously, certain JMods at Jagex want to do certain updates. Certain ones at JMod want to do other updates. You see that in the BTS video or in the Runelabs videos that they produce every month.
And of
like,
course,
none of them wanted to do
that's what they
Elks and
agreed to with
Waterfall
Runelabs, plain and simple, was make player ideas.
But like if you alter those descriptions, like I feel like you're taking it out of the player, like the players, like for rite of passage. Not calling it rite of passage is actually a huge detriment to that thing. The reason why it had so much support was
it was rite of
passage. It was not the Armadillion homeworld quest. It was rite of passage.
It was the quest that got canned, like the one that was promised. Well, it was the quest that was promised.
It was Armadill's follow-up quest where you go and visit the glory of his homeworld and follow up on what happened in World Event 2. And every month that it was delayed or canceled or so on just was time that it was deserved in the limelight.
Yeah. And part of this, I mean, again, part of the problem was that Jagex got way ahead of themselves and did a podcast on this when it's still in pre-development, and then the pre-development, and I guess part of it is a lesson to
show you that hype is a non-renewable resource. Yes. You have to be careful with it.
Part of it should be a lesson to all of us that like things that are in development don't always stay in development.
Like the ranching.
Well,
yeah.
Things that go
livestock.
Like, rite of passage was not fully in development, but things that go into are actually in the development stage, they usually get all the way through. But
I'm talking about like pre-development or like the ideas are there and then they kind of hype them up. And you saw this at the Rune Fest 2 years ago with like stuff like the Church of You and the construction and smithing reworks, mining, smithing, construction reworks, all of those. Like those have not come to fruition because reasons. Well, invention
is a whole separate case.
Invention is very different because they were developing it, and they're like, this might not be best as one skill.
Yeah.
And they brought it to us, and there's been a dialogue there after a while. There's a while where we're like, what happened to invention, guys? But
we finally got our poll and our follow-up. So
but it's all about that critical period, and we are way off topic.
I don't think we're off topic.
I don't think at all. This is a lot about player power and what Runelabs is a part of.
Oh yeah.
No, we're completely on topic for a change. Like,
for instance, what you were saying about how the disconnect between Runelabs and in-game. That's a big part of why I made that suggestion, the poll center. But unfortunately, that didn't really take off at all.
Yeah.
But Runelabs is out of game. So much out of game, and most players don't even visit the homepage.
It's the same problem.
I don't.
It's the same problem that the RuneScape official forums has. There's a disconnect between the RSOF and RuneScape itself, as well as the disconnect between Runelabs and the game itself.
There tends
it's
to be
almost
that
funny to be standing around and somebody goes, "What the fuck's this Tuska thing?" And I'm like, "Have you not read anything and not seen any of the streams?" And they're like, "No, I don't visit the homepage." And I'm like, you forget how many players there are that log in to play the game. They don't care about what's coming up in the future until it's a couple days away.
Yeah, and I mean, we've all been in that spot in RuneScape, in any game that we've ever played. Like, I know that I was that way in RuneScape for the first 8 months that I played the game. Salt in the Wound came out, I'm like, oh hey, there's a new quest in game, I guess I'll go do it. And it was only once you started going forward, and I think it was Branches of Darkmire was the first thing that I was like, oh, this looks cool. And then I started looking forward, and then I joined Clan, and then, everything's history from there. The same thing goes with Vindy. It's like, you start the game, and people are talking about this Season 2 thing, this mythical... This was, 3 years ago. So people are talking to us about this mythical Season 2 thing. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And then it showed up, I'm like, oh, that's what you're talking about. And then you realize, oh, it happened 6 months ago in Korea? Okay, that's why you know about that. But
I was hopeless from the beginning. I started this game and was sucked into future updates news
Well,
in a couple of months.
But still, there's that time between when you
Yeah.
start and then there's a lot of people that just never get sucked into that. Like,
Yeah,
Runic just posted in the chat. There are currently 84 people on the RuneScape open official forums, and 775 people on the RuneScape Reddit. Like, there you go, right there. Like, you see that kind of disconnect. Not.
Do they have like the count of people on Runelabs? Do they have that? Does that exist?
I'm not sure if it does.
How many
Shall
ideas
see.
there currently are on Runelabs?
No, like how many people are looking at
Oh.
Runelabs.
I don't think it displays.
I don't think it does either.
No.
Nope.
I mean, we know that there are. Give me just a second.
In any event, there needs to be a way to like reach out to the people in game and get them.
Yeah.
And this
Get them
is,
to
that
vote.
is the place where you use the hype. That's where you burn the hype,
Support.
guys.
And I do
Yeah,
think,
and-
like, in the end, with regards to the descriptions, like, it should be copy pasted directly from the idea. If your
think
idea has
that-
a good title,
Yeah.
good. If it doesn't, that's your own fault. It's not Jagex's problem to fix your title.
Yeah. And of course, making things even more awkward, I suppose, is that, Jagex themselves is writing these descriptions. Shouldn't they be asking, it goes to poll and they contact these players and say, hey, give us 2 lines, maximum this many characters for a description for your idea. They shouldn't be writing them themselves.
Actually,
Yeah.
that reminds me of something that, like, how I thought Runelabs was going to be originally. When I was writing down my initial Runelabs ideas, I basically gave myself this rule: you have 1 tweet to describe your idea,
140
gosh.
characters.
140 characters. And
Yeah,
if
I
you
could-
can't do that, then you're doing it wrong.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't pitch your idea in a sentence or maybe 2 short sentences, you're doing it wrong. And
Or a tweet.
it's
Yeah, looking at the current ones, they probably have about 2 tweets worth of space, and that's about it.
yeah, and that's what it is. That's what it's been in a lot of these polls. I don't think I have most of these actually clicked on anything that isn't I don't mind.
Oh, I'd also like to add, on
I don't.
Runelabs, as of right now, over the past 6 months, there have been 37,032 ideas.
That's a lot.
I mean, comparatively, not really.
How many ideas? 7,000?
37,000, just over 37,000. And I mean, that seems like a lot, but if you think about it, a lot of those are from the same players. I mean, I've submitted 6 ideas so far. And furthermore, that is more, that's less people than what's active in the game on a normal day.
Walter mentioned something actually very interesting in
And that's
in
over
the
6
chat.
months.
He says he links it and says, "What is the use of this page? This is the Runelabs homepage." And
Yeah.
on the ideas you may like, the random ideas from the community, you see a total of 0 supporters all the way down the list. They're not month locked, so you
Yep.
don't. So it's not. Most of these aren't remotely relevant to this month.
I
And
see 0 relevant
I
ideas.
see none relevant on mine either. And probably
I
none
see
of these
one.
are even. I think they're random, so I'm pretty sure we all have different. But and then furthermore, I see, or there's probably most of these are what would we call SWEC updates. I think
Yep.
most of these are okay, but
Tradable charms.
yeah, I mean,
Swag.
well, that's not SWEC. SWEC is like the 2-word.
I think charms should be tradable because it would stop everyone having to go through the hassle of killing monsters and realizing they don't have enough charms and going back out. Later, you want some more XP, but you have to farm for 2 hours all over again. End this now, in all caps.
Yeah. Titles for achieving a 99 in mastering, like that already exists, and there's a lot of stuff like that, and it's like it's just like the Runelabs homepage isn't relevant. It's not that it's not useful; it's just not relevant.
In any event, there is, despite all this, bad clout that's
these three major issues in Runelabs. There's a bunch of stuff that they are doing right, especially like getting the players involved and policing everything.
Just on a
And they've
side
got,
note, for the next time that we do awards, I think I'm just going to use that for my awards because I found the greatest thing ever. The Camel Stecking minigame.
Yep, we've got that up right now. Oh jeez. But I mean, it's like stuff like this shows up in the random thing. It's like, well, this isn't useful.
Yeah. Like, what would be really cool is if when signed in, it gives you a list. You know, like, it looks at what you've supported in the past and gives you ideas similar to that, like, fitting within the same criteria. So if you're voting for a lot of quest ideas, then it'll show you more quest ideas. If you're voting for a lot of boss or monster ideas, it'll show you a lot of monster ideas instead of, you know, ideas you may like and I don't like any of them.
Yeah.
It's not, there's nothing special about it. It's just, here's a bunch of random ideas from random times, you know?
Yeah.
It showed me ideas from this month that were posted this month.
I'm surprised they don't like wipe it every month. And it seems like
They wipe supports every month, but the reason they don't wipe ideas every month is because, I mean, we just saw it with how this last poll was going. The first idea on Runelabs was something that kind of fit into the criteria and got a good bunch of support. But I really doubt the author would have reposted it for the month under normal circumstances.
But then if you don't, I don't necessarily mean like, I mean, I think it has to be
hassle, is what I think.
Because of the random, I don't know. But then again, if you're taking the time to go to the Runelabs homepage, generally you're going to take the time to make one or two more clicks to go and actually look at the list that's relevant.
Yeah,
so
that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
No, I ignore that page because I don't think there's anything useful on it for me.
Yeah, true, but
Just
if you're
plain
new...
simple. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like... It's a lot of small things. Like, Runelabs is a good system that could be probably done a little bit better, but then at the same time it suffers from the issue that, well, we thought exactly what happened with regards to power of the players. At a certain point it's tyranny of the majority, and it's like campaigning. You have to actually go out and campaign for your things, and some people don't like that. Some people, it's just a fact of player polling, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we probably expected it or should have expected it. Whether it's a good thing or not, I guess I can't say, but you know, whatever. But yeah, is there anything else before we wrap this up? Is there anything else quickly that you want to mention about Runelabs as a whole, looking back over the last 6 months?
We're still looking
for
for that
broken
extra large
minds.
update.
What'd you say, Lime?
We're still looking for that extra large update month.
Oh yeah, soon.
And honestly, I don't think we're going to get one. Call me crazy, but I mean, there was a discussion that a couple of us had with Kelpie on Twitter, and it's basically, you know, if we were getting hundreds, 10,000 supports on things, they would be more inclined to give us the ability to decide what the next extra large update is. But because we're barely breaking 1,000, barely breaking 2,000, and even the polls aren't getting amazing responses, they're not so inclined to give us
that power
these
because they don't.
huge powers.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
don't.
goes to show that we need more integration in game.
Absolutely.
Like, we just need more.
But then, it all comes back to the casual players that just they don't really care about.
But what I'm saying is that they do care. Like, even if there are too many people voting for I don't mind, there's still a lot of people, way more than anyone that supports on Runelabs for any individual idea, that vote on these ideas. And they should be getting their say during the Runelabs suggestion process.
Yeah, I guess.
Absolutely.
But all right, I think that's a pretty good place to leave it off. We will be back, as mentioned before. We'll be back next weekend with the June BTS, as well as a brief look forward to the summer, and a quick look back on Tuska and some of the first week of Tuska and some of the other things that have happened in the last couple months. I know we haven't done a true update, like recent updates podcast in over 2 months now, but I mean, there hasn't
wasn't
been much. Unfortunately, there hasn't been much, and we've been busy. But either way, I thank you all for watching. Please follow us on Twitter at Seercast. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow all of us in the description as well. If you're interested in more and more updates and stuff, we will be back next week, and we will see you guys then. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Tell your friends.